Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Jays Down podcast. I am your host Jay, and today we're going to be talking college football. Today, we already had week zero, happen, and now we're starting week one officially this week. So we already saw Florida State and Georgia Tech play last Saturday, and now this week, everybody else is starting their 2024 college football schedules off this year. So excited to see how that turns out. Really, I'm excited to see how that turns out. I'm going to be going over some games, giving my previews, predictions just for a few of the games, not all of them because there's over like hundreds of schools that'll be playing. But just for a few of them, and then we'll just have some talking points as far as like Colorado and Ohio State. So that's kind of what we'll be discussing on today's episode of the show. But before we get into that, make sure you hit that subscribe button in the right corner of your screen, and also share with your friends, your family, your fellow football enthusiasts. We're continuing to grow this channel on Jays Down. Unfortunately, I'm not able to record in the podcast studio for the moment, so this is going to be my setup for right now, but we'll make it work as we always do here on Jays Down. So make sure y'all just, again, just hit that subscribe button. Check us out on the socials, that be Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. I was forgetting the last one. So how can you forget TikTok, right? But yeah, so that's just kind of just the overview. But to get started though, like I said, college football is back. We've been waiting a long time for this. This year, of course, the playoff expanded to 12 teams instead of the usual 4. So now you're gonna have a lot of other teams that are gonna have a chance to make it in these different conferences. Had teams move conferences. The Pac-12 no longer exists. So that's the thing. So that's going to be interesting to see how some of those former teams, how moving to the new conference, how it's going to affect them and how they're going to play and, all that kind of stuff. It's going to be really intriguing to see. But I mean, as far as a whole playoff prediction, I don't have one right now. It's way too early to decide that, even with knowing these teams pretty well and the coaches pretty well. But right now, I don't have, as far as like who I think is gonna, who I think is gonna make the playoff right now. But I will say, watching the FSU and Georgia Tech game, FSU is not looking that good. They Georgia Tech ran through them. Over 100 rushing yards on the ground, like that. I mean, probably 130. I think I didn't know the exact. I don't have the exact stats in front of me, but they ran through them completely. Just gashing them, and really what it was the counter. Like the counter really, the counter play really is what got them. And if you know football, the counter plays. So the offense, when they're in counter, basically in that play, it's a run. It could be to the left or right, but usually you have your center, your guard, and usually your guard is going to be the one pulling. So either your left or your right guard, your offensive linemen are going to pull. And depending on how the defensive end is lined up, they're going to either kick them out, so the running back can go up through the hole that the guard and maybe possibly a fullback create, or if they're inside the tackle, if they line up inside the tackle, then the guard's job is just going to be to, seal them, usually. Essentially, that's how that play is ran. So Georgia Tech ran this play a lot, and it worked almost every single time because FSU could not stop it. And one of the things in football is if it's not broke, don't fix it. So if a play is working, then don't stop. Why are you going to stop calling that play? And they continued to run counter up and down their throat, and FSU had no answer for it. They couldn't stop it. And that's just one of the things I noticed. Zach Gibson played well. He played serviceable, but it was the running attack by Haynes that really is what got them, and some of the other runners for Tech. And just watching FSU and DJ Ugadele, I always butcher his last name. Excuse me, FSU fans. But I don't think he's the answer at quarterback right now. I really don't believe it. They're missing Jordan Travis a lot right now. They're going to continue to miss him this whole year. So can I sit here and say that FSU is going to be the best offensive teams in the country? No. And they weren't really last year, but they were good. But they're definitely not going to be this year either. So that's just one thing I noticed in that. But overall, excuse the noise. But overall, like I think it was a good opener. I mean, it was a good opener. Like I said, Georgia Tech looked pretty good, and funny enough, Georgia State, which is my school that I'm at currently, we play Tech this weekend, so that should be an interesting game. But um, you know, it's, other than that, I mean, Clemson and Georgia on Saturday. Uh, I got Georgia in this one. Obviously, Clemson, if they're not going to win, their offense isn't going to produce anything. Like if Cade Clement comes out there and doesn't if he lays an egg and off the line doesn't block, then you're in for a long night. I'm not saying not night, long day. See, I would think this would be a night game. Like they should have made it a night game, but it's at 12 o'clock for some reason here in Atlanta Mercedes-Benz Stadium. But it's like anyway. That being said, I do believe that this is going to be a beatdown by Georgia. I don't think Clemson's got it right now, so I got them winning. And then, Alabama and Western Kentucky. Kalen DeBoer. I haven't done a video on Alabama in a while, but we all know Nick Saban retired and everything, and now a lot of their players led to the NFL, as we all are aware of, especially on the defense side of football, they lost a lot of defensive players. But I'm confident in what they're bringing back down there in Bama. I'm a Bama fan, so a little biased here, but I am confident in what they're bringing back as far as roster wise. I mean, Jalen Milroe, of course, Jam Miller at running back. Offensive line, I mean, should be pretty decent. Defensively, you still got guys like Oates and those guys that they're up front, and so I mean, for the most part, like they're young and not a lot of experience back there, but for the most part, I like the team, and I think they're going to go out there. I think they're going to produce, and I think this weekend is going to be a good opening test for DeBoer and his staff, coaching wise, just to see how well they know their personnel and their strengths, and then what they might need to change to cater to those strengths or those possible weaknesses as you move throughout the season. That's what coaches and that's what these coaching staffs always do, especially in these opening games. They want to use, especially if it's against a team like if it's a lesser opponent like Western Kentucky or a team like that, right? Like Florida Atlantic or whatever. Like you just want to, use that game to kind of evaluate, just to see. You did that in the spring, but you're also using this to see, okay, because our starters on this game may not be our starters next week, or the guys that didn't start this weekend probably won't start, or probably will start next weekend, right? So it's like those things you still are figuring out over the course of the year, at least until you get by mid-season. Then everything should be pretty much set. As far as like depth chart and everything, lineup wise, scheme wise, barring any injuries, of course. But I think Alabama is going to win this game. Obviously, I think they're going to make the college football playoff. Even though I said I want to talk about playoff predictions, but they're not going to be the Bama that we've been used to. Of course, they're not. They're just not. And when you undergo a coaching change, that's a huge. That's a drastic, movement, on your team. So big deal. But as far as those games are concerned, and there's a whole bunch more, of course. But that's just what my predictions for these matchups this weekend. I'm just so happy college football is back. Really am. Interested to see these guys and a lot of players move to different schools and stuff too. So that's another thing to keep an eye on. But what I want to talk about next is Colorado. Now, of course, Deion Sanders in Colorado have been in subject, of conversations ever since he got to Colorado, ever since him and his sons got there. And, he took over that program and they went 4-8 last year. And this first year there, not the best year, everybody was clowning him like, oh, Deion Sanders isn't really he's just playing, he's daddy ball and this and that and all this third. And I'm going to say this, like, stop the Deion Sanders and Colorado hate right now. Just stop it. It's irrelevant. Why? Because he's, his son is starting quarterback. Okay. And I was listening to Deion Sanders on a podcast this morning. He was talking with RG3, And he was telling them like, hey, like when people say, oh yeah, I do daddy ball, like, I don't know what that means, like because there's a whole bunch of other kids and coaches out there, coaches who are starting their sons. It's like, but you don't hear anything about them. But it's just when it's me, it's like it's all this energy directed towards him. So I just want to say like, and he embraces it, hate, and he uses it as motivation, and I would too if I was him. I think Colorado, look, is a great program. I think what Deion is doing there is he's building not just a football team, but he's building character in these young men. And that's a very important thing. That's only not going to last them through their football careers, whether in college and the NFL, but in life. Teach them how to be good fathers, be good, men in the workforce, in life after football. If all those things, those are important. How to treat their families, their wives, their girlfriends, all those things. Those are great things for young guys to be learning. And Deion is a good person to be instilling that into them. Because football is a game of character at the end of the day. And if you don't have good character, you're not going to be a good football player, a truly good football player. Yeah, you may have skill and talent, but when your team needs you the most, and if you're not there, like right here, it's you're no good to the team, and that's just the plain simple truth at the end of the day. And I just wanted to say that I think Deion's doing a phenomenal job. I think Colorado is going to be, do I think they're going to be better than this year than they were last year? Possibly. I mean, they've made some improvements on the offensive line, and they're obviously going to, from what I heard with Deion talking about this morning, like they're going to make an effort to run the football. They're going to run the football, like they're going to stop the run. That's his mantra. He's like, hey, we're going to run it down your throat, and we're going to stop you from running it. And then, of course, Shador, we know he can throw the ball really well, but their thing is like, hey, we're going to be a very physical football team, and time of possession, control that, and let our defense get after it, and they got some good players back there, and so I just want to say, like, can we end the Colorado slander now? But of course, it's not going to end because of who's the head coach, and that's Deion. Until Deion leaves there, they're not going to stop hating on him or the program. I just think it's really ridiculous. But I think Colorado is going to be. I think they're going to be a great football team this year. I really believe it. Hot take, come at me in the comments if you want. That's just my thoughts, my opinions. So now moving on to Ohio State, which is another team that's been in conversation about how good they're going to be. Listen, now my thing with Ohio State is this obviously is not the most talented team they've had. Definitely not. And until they beat Michigan, I really think Ryan Day is in serious danger of losing his job this year. If they do not beat Michigan, then yeah, he's out at the end of the year. I really believe it. Ohio State, at the end of the day, they have garnered in too much talent over the last couple of seasons to not be able to, get to that big dance, right? To get over the hump, to break through that wall. They haven't done it. You've had guys like Marvin Harrison Jr., Jackson Smith and Jigba, all these guys, like as far as offense is concerned, CJ Stroud, and then decent defensively, Chase Young and all those guys, so many great players, and yet they haven't been able to just break that barrier. They haven't been able to make it to the national championship game. Haven't been able to beat Michigan. And I don't think this team is any better. The quarterback is Will Howard. It's going to be their starting QB. No hate on Will Howard. I think he's a good quarterback, but I don't know if it's going to be enough for him. And Quinshon Judkins, he transferred from Ole Miss. He was a second string guy there. So it's like, I don't know. But I do think it's Travion Henderson is still his running back job, RB1 job to lose. He's still the RB1 there clearly, and I'm just really interested to see how they're going to look when they line up this weekend out there. They're going out there because I just want to see how prepared this team is, how gelled they are together. How well are they going to play together? Because the talent, again, is not immense. But with teams like this that aren't as talented, if they're cohesive and they play together, they work together well, and everybody's on the same agenda, then, they do pretty good because it's the chemistry. It's the I don't know any other way to explain it. If you play football or any sport, you understand like it's um, being on par with each other. And if they can go out there and do that, then they might have success. But if not, then they won't. And again, not being the best, like as far as personnel wise, as far as the team won't help them either. So that's just my thoughts on college football coming up this year. But make sure y'all catch all those games. Actually, we got some games starting on tomorrow night. So it'll be here. So make sure y'all check those out. Good luck to you and your teams, whoever they may be this year. And we will see you next time on Jace with Them.